Congressional record published Thursday, June 26, 2025. In the Senate today, no proceedings were recorded. Turning to the House of Representatives on Wednesday, June 25, 2025, the Speaker pro tempore appointed the Honorable Daniel Measer, a Republican from Pennsylvania, to act as Speaker pro tempore for the day. During morning hour debate, members from both parties spoke on various topics. Representative Lisa McBride, a Democrat from Delaware, spoke passionately about the impact of the Republican budget on rural hospitals in her state. She warned that proposed Medicaid cuts would threaten vital funding, risking closures of rural hospitals essential for delivering babies, treating emergencies, and caring for seniors. Over 40% of rural hospitals already operate at a loss and rely heavily on Medicaid. Ms. McBride described how cuts would lead to unpaid bills, increased bureaucracy, and patient bankruptcies. In Delaware alone, 40,000 people could lose coverage, including working families and children. She urged colleagues to oppose what she called a, quote, horrible and heartless bill that raises costs for working families while giving tax breaks to billionaires. Representative Steve Womack, a Republican from Arkansas, honored Bree Ellis, a standout softball player at the University of Arkansas. He highlighted her achievements as Southeastern Conference and USA Softball Player of the Year in 2025. Mr. Womack praised her impressive statistics and leadership in the Razorbacks' successful season. Later in the House, Representative Alford, a Republican from Missouri, discussed energy policy and travel improvements under President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. He credited the legislation with reducing fuel costs by cutting red tape on domestic energy production and modernizing air traffic control technology. Mr. Alford assured that these efforts would lead to smoother summer travel for Americans. Representative Alford also honored Missouri's 509th Bomb Wing and Air National Guard's 131st Bomb Wing for their roles in Operation Midnight Hammer, a strategic strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. He praised the precision and resolve demonstrated by U.S. forces under President Trump. In response, Representative Al Green, a Democrat from Texas, warned President Trump against further military action in Iran without congressional approval. He emphasized the constitutional requirement for Congress to authorize war and threatened articles of impeachment if this authority is ignored. Representative Brian Self, a Republican from Texas, recognized young people from his district appointed to U.S. military academies. He expressed confidence in their readiness to serve with distinction. Representative Maria Rivas, a Democrat from California, criticized a Republican resolution targeting Los Angeles and Californians. She condemned the resolution as a political stunt that ignores key issues like Medicaid cuts and immigration enforcement abuses under President Trump. Ms. Rivas urged her colleagues to vote no. Representative Luttrell, a Republican from Texas, commemorated the 20th anniversary of Operation Red Wings in Afghanistan. He honored the Navy SEALs and Army Special Operations who fought bravely despite overwhelming odds and paid the ultimate sacrifice. Representative Jim McGovern, a Democrat from Massachusetts, spoke about U.S. policy toward Cuba. He criticized the embargo for worsening humanitarian conditions and urged changes to better support Cuban families. Representative Tony Cisneros, a Democrat from California, congratulated golfer J.J. Spaun on his U.S. Open victory and honored Captain Daniel Regan of the Covina Police Department on his retirement after 35 years of service. He also recognized local high school baseball teams for their achievements. Representative Brad Schneider, a Democrat from Illinois, questioned the Trump administration's reluctance to provide Congress with timely classified briefings on recent military strikes against Iran. He emphasized Congress's constitutional role in declaring war and expressed concern over conflicting reports about the strike's effectiveness. Representative Bill Huizenga, a Republican from Michigan, honored the late Dino Dominic Falachetti for his contributions as an economist and public servant. Representative Aruna Subramanyam, a Democrat from California, recognized the Loudoun Wildlife Conservancy on its 30th anniversary for its environmental conservation efforts. Representative Brad Finstad, a Republican from Minnesota, praised Lori Stevermer for her leadership in the pork industry. Representative Mark DeSaulnier, a Democrat from California, advocated for continued investment in biomedical research through NIH and NCI to improve health outcomes and maintain U.S. leadership in medical innovation. Representative Miser spoke about the American economy gaining momentum and criticized the Federal Reserve for maintaining high interest rates despite declining inflation. He supported appropriations funding veterans' health care and military construction projects totaling $453 billion. Representative Tiffany, a Republican from Wisconsin, congratulated high school athletes for their spring sports achievements. Representative Thompson, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, highlighted June as Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month and called for urgent action to support affected families. Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat from Minnesota, shared stories of community events celebrating renewal and honored Hopi Code Talkers for their World War II service. Representative Lou Correa, a Democrat from California, commemorated the 60th anniversary of the Loma Ridge air disaster, honoring fallen service members. Representative Doug LaMalfa, a Republican from California, discussed concerns about climate change policies and rising gasoline taxes. Representative Stephen Cohen resigned from the House Transportation Committee to join the Intelligence Committee. Representative Ramirez, a Democrat from Illinois, reported being denied entry during an oversight visit to an ICE processing center. She emphasized Congress's right to conduct oversight and condemned obstruction by DHS staff. Other House members expressed concern over executive branch obstruction of congressional oversight of immigration detention facilities. Several Democrats criticized President Trump's immigration enforcement policies as harsh and harmful to immigrant communities. They cited cases of wrongful detentions and mistreatment by ICE agents operating in plain clothes without identification. Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn praised ICE officers' work removing criminal illegal aliens and introduced legislation to strengthen cooperation between federal and local law enforcement. In Senate proceedings, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer criticized the Trump administration for delaying briefings on military strikes against Iran and warned against limiting intelligence sharing with Congress. Senator Chuck Grassley honored veterans visiting the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C., emphasizing the importance of preserving their legacy. Senator John Thune outlined Republican plans to prevent tax increases by extending and improving provisions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. He highlighted permanent expansions of child tax credits and small business incentives aimed at boosting economic growth. Senator Dick Durbin stressed Congress's constitutional authority over war powers and opposed President Trump's unilateral military actions against Iran without congressional approval. Senators Bernie Sanders and Maria Cantwell strongly opposed proposed Medicaid cuts in the Republican budget bill. They warned these cuts would cause millions to lose health insurance, threaten rural hospitals with closure, increase healthcare costs for families, and result in unnecessary deaths. Healthcare providers nationwide expressed grave concerns that Medicaid funding reductions would force layoffs, reduce services, close clinics and hospitals especially in rural areas, and increase uncompensated care costs passed on to insured patients. Senator Jeff Merkley called out Republican tactics undermining fiscal responsibility by using budget gimmicks to hide trillions in deficits, while providing tax breaks primarily benefiting billionaires. Senator Ron Wyden opposed legislation weakening encryption standards in efforts to combat child sexual abuse materials online, warning it would jeopardize privacy and security for all Americans. Senator Mitch McConnell praised Operation Midnight Hammer under President Trump's leadership that destroyed Iran's nuclear program, with precision strikes involving B-2 bombers and cruise missiles without casualties. He also honored sports figures Tom Jurich and Rick Bozich for their contributions to Kentucky athletics and journalism respectively. Senators introduced numerous bills addressing diverse issues including domestic violence technology abuse prevention, tribal recognition, firearm regulations, education funding reforms, cybersecurity workforce development, foreign policy sanctions, veterans benefits enhancements, and artificial intelligence threats. That concludes today's summary of congressional activities in both chambers. Thanks for listening. The full source material for this summary is in the description below.